Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you had a great holiday. The White House is laying the groundwork for a grand bargain on the fiscal cliff. But it could be a raw deal for the middle class. Uh-oh, here we go. New video of the University of Delaware event with senior White House advisor David Plouffe shows what hand the Democrats look to be playing. Plouffe is one of the top members of the president's inner circle. So when Plouffe was asked about how to solve the deficit standoff, people should listen to this guy. Plouffe said, this is going to get hairy.
We want to engage in comprehensive tax reform. We also need to engage in entitlement reform. You know, Medicare, Medicaid carefully. These are chief drivers of our deficit. We made a lot of progress with Obamacare. There's a lot more to do. And there's other spending we have to cut.
Hold on a second. I think that we all know what the chief drivers of our deficit are and have been. Our projected deficit over the next 7 years is driven mostly by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Bush tax cuts because those wars were off budget. Entitlement programs don't even compete with these costs. Plouffe went on to pin the problem largely on Republicans who are not flexible on higher tax rates. But he also said this.
And so where I think the big bottleneck right now is Republicans in Congress around revenue and how much and where does it come from, Democrats are also going to have to step up here and do some tough things. And, you know, the notion that somehow that these deficits and our debt are not a threat to our national security and our economic future is something I could not disagree with more strongly, as does the President. There are some, maybe not so much in our party, but some commentators on the left that suggest that we shouldn't deal with this at all.
Voices on the left are not saying the deficit is not a problem for our future. Progressives understand we need to deal with our debt, but progressives don't want to see the burden of deficit reduction put on the backs of the people who can least afford it. The president campaigned on this vision, and he won re-election. At least I think he did. But it also seems like the White House is still considering another grand bargain.
I think what we need to do, and the president believes this, is let's go for the big deal. Let's go for something that we can say for a 10 to 20-year period, for the first time in a long time, our country's on the right sustainable fiscal path. The only way that gets done is for Republicans, again, to step out and get mercilessly criticized by Grover Norquist and the right. And it means Democrats are going to have to do some tough things on spending and entitlements that they'll get criticized by their left.
If this sounds familiar to you folks, it really should. Because back in 2011, President Obama brokered a deal with House Speaker John Boehner to avoid crashing through the debt ceiling. The deal was ultimately rejected by the Republicans, but we know it included cuts to entitlement programs. According to the New York Times, President Obama agreed to squeeze $250 billion from Medicare in the next 10 years, with $800 billion more in the decade after that. He was also willing to cut $110 billion from Medicaid in the short term. Democrats in the Senate make it sound like, you know, a deal like this could be worked out pretty soon.
My side of the table, bring entitlement reform into the conversation. Social Security, set aside. Doesn't add to the deficit. But when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, protect the integrity of the program, but give it solvency for more and more years.
What's the integrity of the program? We have a lot of questions here about where this is all going to end up, don't we? Republicans are also giving off clues about an upcoming deal. Several House and Senate Republicans are openly rejecting an anti-tax pledge of Grover Norquist. But as Senator Lindsey Graham says, rejecting the pledge comes with strings attached.
I will violate the pledge, long story short, for the good of the country, only if Democrats will do entitlement reform.
Okay, so get out the gun and hold it to our head, right? Both Democrat and Republican lawmakers are giving the impression that a deal can be reached as long as there are cuts to things that are near and dear to a lot of Americans, Medicare and Medicaid. David Plouffe's public comments give credence to that idea. Progressive lawmakers are wondering why it's all come to this. Thought we had the election. Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont has spoken on this program about the need to protect programs for the middle class in debt negotiations. Senator Sanders released this statement to the Ed Show tonight. What David Plouffe has stated concerns me deeply. Despite Mr. Plouffe's assertions, the American people have been clear, both through their votes in the election and in poll after poll after poll, at a time when the middle class is disappearing and the number of people living in poverty is at an all-time high. The American people have demanded that there be no benefit cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the wealthiest people and the largest corporations in this country, who are doing phenomenally well, must be asked to play a significant role in reducing the deficit. Hear, hear, Bernie, I'm on board with that. The public agrees with Senator Sanders. I'm not the only one. In the latest CNN poll, 56% of Americans believe that taxes for the wealthy should be raised to help pay for programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. This is in line with exactly what President Obama said on the campaign trail and in his first speech after winning re-election. The president said that we would not balance the budget on the backs of those who were already struggling in our society. Now those people, and the question is, are those people now being asked to bend a little bit despite this tremendous victory that liberals had in November? I think it was November 6th, wasn't it? Not real long ago. So here we are, I think, setting some very dangerous boundaries here that liberals have to get inside of if we're going to have a deal and make the Republicans happy. Are you willing to give up Medicare and Medicaid, big cuts to make sure that the wealthiest can get away with the tax rates that they want? This, I'll tell you what, they just don't rest, do they? Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question, will Democrats stand up for the middle class in fiscal cliff negotiations? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. You can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com, and we'll bring you the results.